Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you my new asset called Live Level Design. Live Level Design is the editor utility widget that dynamically updates based on what you're doing in the editor. But the first tool that is always visible is the selecting by name. So if I just come into here and type in cube, select actors with name, you'll see I've now selected every cube within the scene, and this has also opened up a whole bunch of different tools. But we'll just close that out for now and go along. So the next one is calculate distance. So if you select one actor, you'll see that it's given me some tools that can be used when you've got one actor selected. But if I now select a second one, you'll see the calculate distance becomes available, and this is only visible now because there's only two actors selected. So if I click calculate distance, it'll give me the locations of both and then the middle point. But you'll notice if I click a third actor, because we can't calculate the distance between three actors, the calculate button is now hidden. So we move on to the spacer tool. As you can see, when two or more actors are selected, the spacer tool will become available. So as you can see, I've only got one actor selected here, which is the main background, and the spacer tool is not available. But if I was to select these three cubes, you see now the spacer option is shown up. So I select this fourth one, we'll say 300. And then click spacer. These cubes will now be separated 300 units apart. So the next tool is the snap tool. So if I just duplicate these meshes and bring them over, you'll see that the X and Y and Z values are quite messy. They've got awkward decimals. So if you're using a modular pack, this can be quite messy to work with. So I again select these actors. We'll see our snap tool is available. We'll say 10. And then we'll just do the rotation for 10 as well. When I snap this now, it'll snap to the nearest 10 for each rotation and position for each cube. Do snap. You'll see now that the locations for these have now been rounded up to the nearest 10. The next tool is the drop tool. So if I select these cubes, I know you can click end and it'll drop the actors down to the floor in the editor, and clicking the drop button here will do the same thing. But what we can do with the drop tool in Live Level Design, so I pull this over, we'll put it to forward, forward being the front of the x-axis, so this red arrow. And if I now click drop, you'll see a line trace is drawn, and it's hit this back wall, so the cube's been snapped to this wall. If I do backwards, so we'll go on the opposite way and do drop again, you'll see that the cube's not moved, and that's because this line trace hasn't hit that back wall. If I come into the settings, scroll to the bottom, we've got drop distance. If I set this to say 8000, close the setting, then drop again, you'll see that this time it has reached, and now it's snapped to this back wall. And it's also important to note that these settings are saved between sessions, so if you close Unreal and then come back in, it will remember that it was set to 8000. Next tool, I've got the move, rotate and scale tool. So you see we only need one, at least one, to be selected for this tool to be available. And once you've got these selected, we can adjust the height by say 50 and move it. We can move it up and up and up and up, and I'll just do it for all the actors that it's got selected. The same thing applies to the rotation and scale, so we can make this 2, 2, 2. If you click set, it'll set the scale to 2. If you adjust, it'll get the current scale and then add or subtract these values, so now they'll become 4. And then if we do random, it'll give them random scales between these values here, which I've got set quite high, so let's do 1, 1, 1. And then we'll do random now. You'll see they're getting set to multiple values between 0 and 20. The next tool is the alignment tool. One of the use cases I've made for this in the demo here is to say, imagine it's paintings. So let's say we've got this painting on the wall, we like at this height, and we want the rest of the paintings to be the same height. But first make sure we select this cube first, and then select the rest of the paintings. Click Z. And you'll see that the height has now been set the same for all the different cubes. We can see now the y-axes that are not all in a perfectly straight line. So again, if we just click Y, we'll now have all of them in the same height and the same line. And then the last tool within Live Level Design is the isolate hard and unhard tool. If I just type in cube here, get all the cubes selected, you'll see that this isolate selected, hard selected and unhard all actors become available. So if I do isolate selected, you'll see that every single mesh in the scene has been hidden besides the selected cubes. I want to bring them all back and do unhard all actors. Or if I want to just hard the cubes, I do hard selected. And it's hidden all the cubes. And again, this doesn't have to just be cubes. We can have like, bring in some of these blueprints, the spheres, cylinders, a couple cubes, and then do hard selected. It'll hard them too. Or you can also isolate them too. And this can be quite useful in more compact scenes where you've got a lot of meshes in a certain area and wanting to just sort of focus on one certain part of the map. For the last two blueprints, we've got the progress camera system and then also the construction blueprints. So we'll first go through the construction blueprints. I'll make this a little bit bigger actually, it's easier to see. If I select the construction blueprint, we'll see we've got an endpoint. I can basically move this across. We can get as many cubes as we'd need. So this could be useful for like a fence, for example. And here in the details panel, you add in like what model you want to use, what mesh, the length, what axis you want to go across. And you've got your endpoint and rotation too. And you can also add tags to these so it makes it easier to search for. And then our last blueprint is the progress camera system. You can see we've got these two cameras placed down, and then also the master, which is controlling this boolean. This is useful for if you want to take like progress pictures throughout your project. So if I turn this off for now and then click play, you'll see nothing will happen. But if I then turn on the taking pictures boolean and then click play, you'll see it will snap to them two cameras. Screenshots will be taken, and then if I open them up, you'll see that we've got the screenshots of these two cameras that are placed in the scene. Just before I end this video, I wanted to quickly go through the settings. So we come into the settings, you'll see we've got a snap combo box value with being true or false. This is essentially so when you slide through, because that's not worked. So just before I end the video, I want to quickly go through the settings. So you'll see the top one here being a snap combo box value. And what this is doing is when I'm sliding on these sliders, you'll see that they're getting rounded off. But if this was unchecked, then we'll start to see decimal values, but I like to leave it on just to keep it looking clean. And then the next one is the settings for the random option for the move, rotate and scale tools. So you can see for the scale it's minimum 1, maximum of 2 for both X, Y and Z. We can change, let's say this on the Z to have this go up to 5, so they can be a bit more tall. Now if I select some cubes and start to hit random, you'll see it now getting random values between 1 and 2 for the X and Y, and then between 1 and 5 for the Z. And then I can just come back and have these set back to 0.5, which is what they were all on originally, and then just do set. We're now back to normal. And then the last setting is the drop distance, which we covered before for the drop tool, and that's set to 8,000 at the moment. And it's also important to note that these values are capped with these sliders, so you can see this goes up to 10,000, but I can come in and manually adjust this to say 100,000. So yeah, that's it for the settings for live level design. So that's it for live level design. Most of these tools have been taken from my other game asset called Level Design Toolkit. The main reason behind me putting this together is that Level Design Toolkit is typically used like this, where it is taking up quite a large portion of the screen. So I wanted to make a new tool which allows you to sort of put it in the corner. It can be quite small, and then also it will adjust its like what tools are inside the toolkit itself based on what you got selected. So we don't want to have buttons being on screen that aren't actually currently used, like for example the calculate distance is no longer available because we haven't got two actors selected. You'll be able to check out Level Design Toolkit and Interaction System on the marketplace. I'll have a link to them below, and thank you for watching.